everybody. It's May the 4th by the time you watch this. So May the 4th be with you is our theme for today. You've been doing a lot of work. You've been researching a lot. You've been taking notes. We're going to continue our note taking and talk a little bit today about how we're going to connect our ideas. Today's focus is really going to look at two things. Finding the key ideas or the big ideas in the text that we're looking at, and then trying to integrate those ideas with our own knowledge and by looking closely at sources side by side so that you can begin to understand what are some of the topics and subtopics in your research that you want to bring out in your writing. So that's really the focus of today. So the great thing about informational writing is that you are also doing informational reading at the same time. When you read a nonfiction text, you're always trying to figure out what's going on in the text. You're looking for understanding. You're looking for the big ideas. And the same thing happens as you're researching and you're trying to put those ideas together. You're trying to think about what are the big ideas in my topic and what I'm reading and what I want to write about. So this is just a review of what we did last time, and I made kind of a web, I guess, of information about a source that I read. Today is May the 4th, and because it's May the 4th, we should probably take some advice from our good friend Yoda. So Yoda is saying today, much to learn you still have. And that's really the focus of today. It's the focus of your note-taking. It's the whole reason that you are doing this project to begin with. It's because it's all about learning new information about something and figuring out the best way to get the best information to communicate to your readers, to your audience. So before we dive in deeper to do all of that amazing learning, let's take a quick look at the Corgi Cam. Piper's been pretty busy today avoiding doing all of her homework. I'll show you what happened when she did that, which didn't make me too happy. But let's take a look at what she's up to now, because it could be just about anything. So here we go. Take a look at the Corgi Cam. So for today, I'm going to look at another source, and this time I'm going with a book. And I looked up in the back of the book in the index, as I showed, I think a few times ago, that there were a few pages about frogs. So if I look here, this page and the next page in this book show information about what I was looking at in the online article. So I want to try to take some notes on this source, and then I want to start to compare them or relate the two sources together to see what they have in common and where I can find some subtopics for my writing. Okay? So if I look here, zoom in a little bit. Frogs in hazard. The extinction of a species can be viewed as an isolated tragedy. The disruption of an entire class of animals, some scientists fear, may be the harbinger of planetary catastrophe. In recent years, many scientists who study amphibians, the class of animals that includes frogs, toads, and salamanders, began to realize that these animals are suffering a mysterious decline in many parts of the world. A conference held on the subject in New Orleans in 1990 concluded that there was not yet any hard data to back up their suspicions. Yet one scientist after another spoke of the disappearance of certain frogs in areas where they had been studied for years. So if I pause there and I take out my notes, I'm going to put the heading, Frogs in Hazard, because that was the subheading in the chapter that I was looking at in the text. So frogs in hazard, what I've read so far makes me think that scientists were looking at amphibians, let's say amphibian populations, at least since 1990. And they're suffering a mysterious decline. So their numbers are going down, and they don't know why that is. So these are some key ideas, or some big ideas in the reading that I'm doing right now. And then I think I might say frogs were disappearing from places they could usually be found. So this is a little bit, I kind of think it's kind of like a mystery. What really is happening to the frogs? You'll notice that my note taking right now is kind of listing. I'm really looking for those key ideas. So if we kind of review different types of notes, we talked about bullet points and breaking things down into main ideas and subtopics. So I'm using a list today. The other day I used more of a web. Who knows what it will become after that. So let's take a look a little farther in the reading. The pattern of decline is confusing. Many once familiar species are gone from large areas of our Pacific states. Researchers report major losses in Latin America, Europe, and Australia. Yet there are few similar reports from our southeastern states, except locally, where developers have destroyed good amphibian habitat. All sorts of reasons, including pesticides, heavy metal contamination of waterways, acid rain, predation, and ultraviolet radiation, have been advanced as reasons for the losses. So here I'm kind of seeing a slightly different topic where they're looking for patterns. Why the frogs are in decline and where. And this book talks about the Pacific, West Coast, talks about, so these are losses in Latin America, Europe, and Australia. So again, this makes me think that my original topic of just looking at Michigan frogs might not give me a lot of information in terms of how frogs are being impacted environmentally, and that I might have to broaden my topic to include a focus on some of these other regions of the world. And then it lists some possible reasons. And we could call these some theories. So why are the frogs disappearing? What's causing their decline? And here we have pesticides, heavy metals in waterways, heavy metal contamination of waterways. Acid rain predation, and ultraviolet radiation. So I'm going to just stop there. There's more to the chapter, but let's take a look at what I have found out so far. So far, this heading in the book, so again, I'm looking for headings. That's a good nonfiction text feature to look for. The heading in the book suggests that the frogs are in hazard. There's some kind of danger, something's happening to the frogs. I found three sort of main ideas in the first part of my reading. That this has been an ongoing problem that scientists have been looking at for a while. That the decline is mysterious. So I'm going to add over here, and that was their word, so I might say something like unknown cause. And again, I think I said this before, that my topic is looking like a cause and effect topic. What is causing the frogs to decline? So I'm seeing that pop out in my reading. Frogs were disappearing from places they could usually be found. So this, to me, is sort of our evidence. We used to be able to find frogs here, and now we can't. Then it shifts to talk about the reason why. So again, we're kind of going into what is the cause? What is the cause? Why are these frogs declining? We're noticing it's happening in many places. So I'm going to put a big arrow over here, and I'm going to say, not just Michigan. And then I'm also going to write a question, is it happening in Michigan? Are frogs declining in Michigan? So far in my research, I haven't found information about that, but that might be an interesting section to have in my paper. And then it lists all these possible reasons. So I'm going to call these also possible causes. And these reasons have been discussed before. So some scientists somewhere have put all of these ideas together before. So you'll notice what I've done. I took my notes and I really looked for the key ideas. I'm going to create a new sheet, my idea sheet. So I've read a couple sources, and now I'm putting together a new sheet of notes, I guess you could call it, titling it the idea sheet. And I think the main idea that I want to look at is, why are frogs in decline? So why are there losses in the frog population? And if I go over here and I write, I'm just going to put my online source, because that's online source number 1. I'm going to put book source number 1. And I'm going to kind of compare the two sources, sort of using a T-chart. So in the online source, it listed the reasons: human impact, disease, pesticide use, climate change. In the book, it listed pesticides, heavy metal contamination, of waterways, acid rain, predation, and ultraviolet radiation. In the book source, it talked about scientists looking at frogs populations since 1990. And maybe before. In this source, there's no mention of time frame for research. The online source says it is a regional and global problem. The book source also says the same thing, and it lists Pacific states, Latin America, Europe, and Australia. So what we know right now I'm just going to put across both of them is that so far in my research, the cause seems unknown. So what you can see that I'm doing here is I am taking my learning even deeper. I've taken notes on 2 different sources, and now I'm putting them side by side with an idea that's going to try to capture the information from both of the sources. Why would we want to do this? Because right now, we can tell just from what I've read, my 2 sources, that probably there are going to be some other articles that outline what are some of the reasons. And if you remember in the one source that I read, it said that it's not just one thing. So maybe it's a combination. And I'm seeing 2 different sources written at different times pointing to that explanation. It also helps me get some new questions, like I did in today's notes. I'm really wondering what is happening with the frog populations in Michigan. Are they in decline as well? So I'm breaking down my topic into smaller parts and pieces. I'm taking the knowledge that I'm gaining from my reading, and I'm trying to put the 2 sources together to compare them, which is going to make my writing absolutely much better. Today's assignment involves a few different things. First of all, it involves continuing to take your notes on your 10 sources. If you only have 7 sources, take notes on those. Take notes on as many sources as you have collected. The more sources that you have, the more information you'll be able to acquire to put into your writing. So keep that in mind. So you'll continue your note taking, and then what I'd like to see also is this idea sheet where you're taking two of the sources and you're putting them side by side so that you can compare the information from one source to the other to see what is coming out as really strong subtopics in your potential informational writing piece. All right, so good luck with that, and may the 4th be with you.